Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
And Matt Jackson.
What's going on, guys?
Not a lot. It's been, I always say not a lot. It's like my default reaction, but I have a lot going on. It's been a busy couple of days, but here we are back at it again. We had a retreat this weekend for Crew, the campus ministry that I work for, and so we were up in the mountains with about 200 plus of our students, and it was an awesome weekend, but super tiring. And but I did get back in time Sunday afternoon to watch a decent amount of NFL football, and excited to talk about it with you guys. Tonight we are mixing up our format. We're adding a new layer to our weekly discussion. So we are still going to be reacting to the week's outcomes from the NFL. But we're going to be doing some fantasy fact or fiction. So, and then we're going to do a little reactometer. So we're going to respond and give you some dynasty intel on everything from this week. But we're going to do it in some fun kind of dynasty games format. So we're going to be rating how strongly we agree or disagree with certain takes. And I'm excited to get into it. But before we get into these main segments, we need to have a quick injury discussion, which always sucks. I hate when we have to start shows with injury discussions, but it is a part of the game that we play. So what should dynasty managers do after the losses of Malik Nabers and Tyreek Hill? I'll throw it to you first, Rupert.
One option is, one that you and I have been talking about today. Like, we lost Malik Nabers in a league where we got a chance to compete. So go look for teams that are not competing, because it's a perfect opportunity for them to get Nabers who's not going to score points on their roster that can help their tank for the number one overall pick. But if you can get someone back, like what we were discussing was trading Nabers for Puka Nacua, who's on a non-contending team. So I think those situations where you can get a win-win, where if you can do an even trade, they're pretty even in value, and they get the benefit of helping their tank while you get points back on your roster. I think those are like the ideal scenarios, but it's not always possible.
Yeah, I would just say be careful not to sell too low doing that, because I think depending on who you're talking to, some people are going to devalue Nabers a lot because of the injury. And for me, I dropped him down a few spots in my rankings, and obviously have dropped Puka up or moved Puka up because he's been playing so well at 24 years old. But I've got Puka at 9 and Malik Nabers at 11. And then I've got Amon-Ra, immediately after him at 12. So he's still in that top tier of dynasty wide receivers for me. He's somebody that, if I'm going to sell him to help compete, and I still need to get a really, really good dynasty asset back. Like, I'm not going to sell him for a collection of junk. Not even junk. Like, I saw somebody earlier today talking about Nico Collins for Malik Nabers. And to me, there better be a dang big plus on the Nico Collins side.
Yeah.
So like, don't go too crazy with this idea of selling Malik Nabers for short-term production, because he's still like a cornerstone of your dynasty roster, and you need to get appropriate value back.
I think a perfect example of this is something I did less than 18 hours ago. I have a team that's 1-3 right now that I've had some injuries to guys like George Kittle and Malik Nabers, and I had CeeDee Lamb on that team too, and he's down for a few weeks. Like, this is a team where I'm not going to compete in this year, and I had one of the guys that is currently 4-0 right now reach out to me. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing with your roster?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to contend right now. I'm kind of looking to tank a little bit. I know tank's a funny word, but like I'm not going to compete, and I'm looking to get somebody like Rupert was talking about on my roster that is a great asset, a cornerstone piece, but is not going to score many points. So I traded him, Puka Nakua, and I got back Malik Neighbors and a first on top of that. And I think that was a perfect trade win-win for both of us.
See, now that I think I would not give a first to get to Puka. I wouldn't do it. In fact, that was the discussion that Rupert and I were having today. Was this guy wanted a huge plus on top, and I was like, "Nah, man. Like I mean, I'll give you a little something on top, but like you're rebuilding anyway. You don't care that he's not playing this year, and I've got him 2 spots apart in my dynasty rankings. Like, uh, I was like, I'm not giving you a first for that. So, um, I'm like, I'll do Malik Neighbors in a third. Or like even I offered him Malik Neighbors in my second for his third. And but so to me, like that would be if I'm on the side selling Neighbors, that would be selling low. To have to give a first on top to get Puka when they're in the same tier of players. Like I'm not doing that.
I mean, I wasn't complaining about it. I hit
I mean,
accept
it
pretty
works out for
fast.
you. I'm just because you said it was a win-win. I would not say that that's a win-win for the team that acquired Puka. I mean, I would say that that's a desperation move where they overpaid to try to save their shot at winning a championship, and a win-win. Honestly, like I think still like they should go almost dead even straight up in dynasty value. Maybe that's a hot take. But I feel like, like Rupert said, you're helping that player tank for the 1-1. You're giving them an asset that's 2 years younger that pretty much universally was viewed as more valuable than Puka a week ago. Like that's a win-win without having to add a first on, in my opinion. That might be a hot take right now. I don't know what consensus is saying about this, but that's where we were at because ultimately we ended up turning this guy's deal down that he was offering us Puka. Because we felt like he was asking for too much back.
I'll just give some cheaper options that you can kind of look to acquire to hold you over. Like if you're a contender, we talked about him a lot already the last couple of weeks. Keenan Allen is someone that you could get for cheap. If you want to get someone basically free, like Darius Slayton, always seems to kind of perform when there's a bit of a hole on the wide receiver side. Not going to win you leagues, but it's something to be able to throw in the flex there for you. So just like try and look for kind of cheap options to hold you over as well.
Yeah, and I'll say with Tyreek, so that was the other one on the sheet here. Tyreek Hill. Garrett asks, "Are my Malik Washington shares about to go to the moon?" I don't know about to the moon, but like he should see an increased role because he's now a top 2 wide receiver on that team. But I don't know. Like Tyreek is a tough one because when a injury that's that catastrophic, I don't know if you guys saw the picture. One of our Discord members posted the picture and I deleted it because I was like, I didn't want to see that, and I don't want others to have to see it if they don't want to see it.
I appreciate that.
It was pretty gross. It's like knees are not supposed to turn that way. So when you're that age and you have an injury that's that like grotesque, I don't know. Like it said, dislocated knee. Yeah, he's
he relies
high
on his
athleticism.
Mm-hmm. Can I sell you guys Jalen Waddle for first now?
No. No.
Pass.
I actually think this is a great opportunity to sell Jalen Waddle because I still don't really believe in him. So you guys that are still holding on to Jalen Waddle shares, congratulations. You just got another sell window.
I have one share, so I'll probably put him on the block tonight.
Yeah. Better yet, send some offers. Like that's the thing is if you want to get offers, like you can put somebody on a block, but a lot of times I put somebody on a block, I get nothing. So if you really want to sell a player, you need to be the one going out and sending offers. That's a little bit of free advice for you that Skip and I have talked about on the Couch GM show a few times. But yeah, Tyreek, his value is rough when you're that age and you're dependent on athleticism and you have an injury that severe. And so if you were counting on him for production, I know like the phrase dislocated knee sounds like maybe that's not that serious. Like maybe he'll come back in a few weeks, but it didn't look like it to me. So I don't know. Let's move on here. Let's get into our fantasy fact or fiction. Here's our first statement here, and you guys will have to tell me if you think that this statement is fact or fiction. Jackson Dart can lead a competent offense in 2025. That's the statement. And here, let me give you just a little bit of context. Per Yahoo Sports, using Next Gen Stats, since 2000, rookie quarterbacks making their first start in Week 4 or later against an undefeated team were 0-4. Dart made it 1-4. He gets a win against an undefeated Chargers team in his first start, which is pretty good. Got to give him his flowers, give him his props for that. So the question is, can Jackson Dart lead a competent offense in 2025? Fact or fiction? I'll throw it to you first, Rupert.
I'll go fact, and mainly due to the fact that having a competent offense is a very low bar for the Giants the last few years. And there's just no doubt about it. Like Malik Neighbors going out is going to hurt, but they have Wandell who, wins in the slot. And the main reason why they're going to be confident is because teams are going to have to respect the run, and they can use play action. And obviously Jackson Dart also has a lot of rushing upside as well. But I think Cam Scatterboo is going to be the engine to that offense and really help them be competent enough to where they can compete and win in games.
Jackson, what do you think? Fact or fiction?
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite end of that. I'm going to say fiction. Just because, yeah, Jackson Dart has the rushing upside, so I think he's going to be a competent, maybe fantasy quarterback. But that's not what the question's asking. It's asking is he going to be a competent quarterback, and is the offense going to be competent? And I have a hard time believing that with Malik Neighbors going down. Wandell Robinson has been virtually non-existent for 2 or 3 weeks now. They have Scatabo, which he's a truck, man. I've loved watching him the last 2 weeks. We were so high on him, but like I don't think he can be the entire offense, and I just don't know who else on that team is really going to step up in Neighbors' absence. Not to mention the fact that that offensive line is just kind of abysmal. So he's going to have to run for his life anyway. Like, I think he's going to be a good fantasy quarterback with his legs, but I have a hard time believing this is going to be a good real life NFL offense.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll break the tie. I'm also going with fiction. Impressive for sure to eke out. It was an ugly win, but it was a win against a good Chargers team. That defense is no joke to go against in your first start. The Chargers have a good defense. And 10 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown is nice from a fantasy perspective, like you said, Jackson. It's also nice for the Giants. I mean, obviously getting that kind of production, you definitely weren't getting that from Russell Wilson in terms of running the football. And I think, in that kind of RPO read option style offense, it opens things up a little bit more for Scatterboo, that type of thing. But 13 for 20 passing, 5.6 yards per completion is so pedestrian. I mean, those are like JJ McCarthy college numbers, right? Like, Mr. Game Manager, Mr. Dink and Dunk. Like, even the one touchdown that he threw was one of those little shovel passes, like kind of a trick play. It wasn't a real pass play. It's not like he dropped back and like threw it into the end zone and completed a pass. So if the question is, can the Giants win games with him? Then I'd say maybe, because that defense is legit. I mean, holding the Chargers to 18 points, turning Herbert over twice, that's impressive. So all he had to do was score 21 to win, which in the NFL is not that high of a number. You add in the run game with Scatterboo, Dart running it some himself. Like, he was able to just kind of be a checkdown artist, and that was enough for them to get this win. We'll see how many wins it's enough for them to get moving forward, and how quickly defenses will adjust when they actually get some tape on Jackson Dart, because you got to remember that too. Like the Chargers had no tape to game plan against Dart this way. But the question is not about whether the Giants can win football games, eke out wins with like run game and good defense. The question is, can they run a competent offense? And I don't think that's going to be the case, especially without Neighbors. You mentioned Wandell. He does win in the slot, but it's a lot easier to win in the slot when you have guys like Malik Neighbors opening things up down the field and kind of opening up the underneath game. I don't think Wan'Dale's anything special. I don't think Dart is ready. I think he's only in there because Russ looked so bad. And so it's like, that's why you're only throwing 20 passing attempts. That's why you're only throwing dink and dunk checkdowns. It's because he doesn't know how to read the defense yet. And so your playbook is so restricted because Dart's not really ready to go out there and fully run an NFL offense. And so, yeah, I think this was a nice feel-good moment for him, and it might be his high moment of the whole season. I think they're throwing him in there when he's not ready. So Rupert in the minority. Jackson and I think it's fiction. We'll see what happens. Fact or fiction, the Woody Marks takeover has arrived and is here to stay. So, Houston's O-line has been awful the first 3 weeks. So, they get kind of a cupcake matchup here with the Titans, and Woody Marks breaks out, which is great. We like that, but does it matter? Is it going to continue? Considering the struggles that the Texans have had in every other game this year. I'll throw it to you first this time, Rupert. Or actually, no, you went first last time. I'll let Jackson go first on this one. Woody Marks takeover has arrived and is here to stay. Fact or fiction, Matt Jackson?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with fact here. Look, Woody Marks was somebody that we loved his film in college coming into the league. Age was the concern, right? He was coming in as an older running back, and we weren't sure if he was going to have the opportunity before that first contract, right? But watching him play, man, he is clearly the most explosive back on the roster right now. He gives that offense something exciting to watch. I mean, you're looking at him, he's probably the best pass blocking running back on the team. And I would argue he's probably the best pass catching running back on the team as well.
Oh yeah,
I know
for sure.
So I mean, when you pair those two things together, like I think this is definitely one of those situations where he's just going to take hold of the job and I don't know if run with it is the right word because the carries were split a little bit, but I do think he's going to get his, which will be enough to at least put him in a flex position in your lineup.
Rupert?
Great. I think this is a fact. Second everything that Jackson said. Like he just looks like he has a different gear. He's like putting on a clinic with some pass blocking, which is really great to see. He's a guy I wish I would have planted my flag on a little bit more. But really glad for all the shares that I do have. Unfortunately, it just looks like Chubb just doesn't have that extra step after all the injuries. So I think he gives them the best chance to get first downs and get explosive plays. And then it really just helps that he's back there protecting his quarterback and being like a extension of the offensive line.
Yeah, you guys mentioned the pass protection, which is actually surprising. I looked back at our tape grades. We had him at a 3 out of 10 for pass pro. We didn't think he was very good at it from studying the college tape. And obviously he's low on the physicality and power. We had him at 5. It's just not his play style, not a tackle breaker per se. But we had a really good grade on him, 74.2. That is a really solid grade. We had him at an 8 for vision, 8 for patience, 8.5 for elusiveness, 8 for burst, 8.5 for quickness. Like we had some really good grades here, and an 8 for receiving. He's a great receiving back. So those are nice grades that we had on Woody Marks as a prospect. Obviously, like you mentioned, the ding was his age, his size. Then the draft capital is not quite there, and so like that was true for Bucky though, and we stayed true and loved Bucky. I think this was just a better running back class, so it was easier to fade some of these guys that that didn't land in the ideal situation. Which obviously, who's going to predict that Joe Mixon is going to be out and have an indefinite timetable for return and all this kind of stuff? But anyway, we did like him, and so I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to say fact. Not that he's going to be getting 22 touches every week. He had 17 carries and 5 targets in this one. That's a lot of work. He did that on only a 56% snap share, which is tough to do, to see 22 touches on 56% of the snaps.
That's an outlier.
Yeah, Chubb also had 15 touches, so it's not like Chubb was just totally phased out either. So the fact that they had, 37 total running back touches is a ton. That's not going to happen every week. Um, because again, the Titans are a dumpster fire. They're playing in a positive game script where they've got the lead. So they're running the ball a lot, which has not been the case for the Texans for the most part this year and probably won't be the case in most of their games this year. The O-line is still arguably the worst in the NFL. So, yeah, all of that being said, like you're not going to expect, you need to temper expectations if you're thinking that Marks is going to be this bell cow and get 22 touches and put up 27 fantasy points every week. So, if that was the question, I would say fiction. But the question was, has he kind of taken over the lead job in that backfield? Is the breakout real? And for that, I'm going to say fact because I think he is. He provided juice that this offense really needed. I think he's earned a larger role moving forward, and I think I expect him to continue to be a usable fantasy asset, particularly in PPR leagues. Like that 5 target number, I think that can stick and even go up. So that's encouraging to see. So yeah, we're all unanimous there. We're saying fact. Woody Marks takeover is here to stay. So let's do one more before we go to the break. And that is, will Isaiah Bond emerge as the Browns wide receiver 1? Bond has seen his targets and receiving yards increase in every game this season. In week 4, he was tied for second in targets among all Browns pass catchers with 6 and led them in receiving yards. But, undrafted free agent, ugly quarterback situation. Judy's still out there. Now you got Tillman on IR, which helps Bond's case. But will Isaiah Bond emerge as the Browns wide receiver 1? And I'll add, does that even matter? Fact or fiction? I'll start with you, Rupert.
I'm going with fiction there because Judy's still there. We really like this tape. I think we're a lot higher on consensus on him before all the off the field issues that he unfortunately had. I think we were looking at him like borderline first round, early second round kind of range, and I think he has potential maybe one day to be there, but I think Judy firmly has the grasp on that. And then especially if they end up switching quarterbacks, like his bread and butter is the deep game. They move to Dylan Gabriel, who doesn't really excel at that. I don't really think there's any way that he's going to take over.
Yeah, I'll chime in there. I'll let you go last this time, Jackson. But I'll also say fiction. Like Rupert said, we like the tape. I think he's got some upside, especially with Tillman going to IR. That being said, right now he's being used almost exclusively on deep shots. He's averaging like 19 point something yards per catch. And you got an offense with a bunch of check down Charlies at quarterback. Like, it doesn't matter where you turn, whether it's Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, or Shedeur Sanders, they all got noodle arms. Flacco could sling it earlier in his career and might still have the best arm out of the 3 of them, even at age 40 plus. But
I'll still say that Flacco still has a rocket on his arm.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
You'll always see Ravens Joe Flacco when you look at him, huh? I mean, I would be curious to see what the average depth of target is for the Browns right now because I think it's pretty low. But yeah, I mean, Judy's still the top guy, and Joko and Fannin will continue to be involved as well. So, not only do I not think Bond is going to emerge as their wide receiver 1, I think even if he did, it wouldn't matter a ton. I'm going to predict that Bond continues to be feast or famine, with it being famine more often than not. Maybe in the future, when he doesn't come in after having missed all of training camp, when he has a quarterback that is actually, a competent NFL quarterback, when he has time to develop as a route runner and he's getting some easy layup touches like on the screen game and the type of stuff that Worthy's getting right now for the Chiefs, where he's getting opportunities to run after the catch and, a volume of targets and not just deep looks. I think that could be in the cards for Bond at some point in his career, but I don't think it's this year. Jackson?
So I'm gonna say that I tend to agree with y'all, but I'm going to throw a different viewpoint into this for a second. Um, one is the fact that Quinshon Judkins is keeping defenses honest, right? We've seen him getting the bulk of carries, and he looks like a really good running back. We were a little lower, although we still liked him, but he is. I know he shattered all of our expectations for what he could be on that offense. Reports are coming out right now that Dylan Gabriel is going to be slotted as the starter ahead of Joe Flacco for Week 5. So you're talking about a guy who's already as the second string quarterback has already been working with Isaiah Bond, right? So maybe there's some chemistry there, and maybe this offense looks a little different than it has previously. The last 3 weeks, I heard you guys, you guys were mentioning Jerry Judy. The last 3 weeks, 8 targets, he caught 4 of those targets. 5 targets, caught 1 of those balls. 9 targets, caught 3 of those balls. I'm not saying that he's going to be for sure the wide receiver one, Isaiah Bond, but this offense needs something refreshing. And I think with what Jerry Judy is putting on film right now, like it doesn't look great. And I think they could get to the point where they get super frustrated with him and go a different direction. I could see a fact or a situation where Isaiah Bond is their wide receiver one. Now I'm going to agree with you, Cooper. I don't think it matters, but I am interested. I could see the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, I could get behind that. I mean, I think I've never been the biggest Jerry Judy guy. I don't think he's like this immovable obstacle in the way. I just think Judy's getting more of the like actual wide receiver usage, and Bond is more of this situational deep threat right now. But I mean, we had this conversation. It feels very similar to like week 1 when we were talking about Kayshon Boutte versus Stephon Diggs. And it's like, okay, yeah, Kayshon Boutte had a big week where they connected on some deep shots, but Stephon Diggs is going to be the guy over the long term that earns more targets and gets more consistent usage in the offense because he's actually running the real wide receiver routes. And so far, that analysis of the Boutte Diggs situation has turned out to be really true. I think it's a similar situation here. You transitioned really nicely. So before we go to the break, I actually will talk about our last fact fiction, which is that Dylan Gabriel is a buy with Joe Flacco struggling. Now, this was written on the show sheet. You mentioned that there's already some rumors that Gabriel is going to be the starter this week, which would make his price go up a little bit. But it hasn't been officially announced yet. And so maybe you could still, get Dylan Gabriel for cheap, or somebody thinks, oh, Dylan Gabriel's a scrub. I'm just going to take my third and get out and take my profit. And, so here's the question. Dylan Gabriel, let's say his price is a third round pick. So fact or fiction, Dylan Gabriel is a buy with Joe Flacco struggling. I'll throw it to you first, Rupert.
If the price is a third round pick and you need a quarterback, absolutely. We were much higher than consensus on Gabriel. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to for sure be like a long-term asset, but I think he has more of a chance than people are thinking, and especially at a price of a third-round pick. Like, I would take that flyer all day.
Do you think that
Yeah,
that's a realistic price? Like you could actually get him for that? Am I way off here? I mean, I'm not looking at like
No.
keep trade cut or anything. I'm just making that up.
Yeah, I think that'd be in the realm of possibility.
Maybe two
I don't know.
thirds. I don't know.
I could see somebody trying to take advantage of the situation and asking for a second. I wouldn't pay a second. I wouldn't pay more than a third for Dylan Gabriel, and I feel pretty iffy paying a third for him already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. So you're saying fact or fiction, Jackson?
I'm saying fact right now because I would pay a third, I think, but it's not one of those trades that I feel overly good about. That offense is so anemic anyway, outside of Quinshon Judkins. Like I think he's going to get his opportunity, and I think if the cards fall the right way, a third is a great price to pay for Dylan Gabriel. But I don't know. It's hard because the whole QB situation there has just been so abysmal.
Yeah.
So, but I think I would pay a third. I think
I
that's a good
just
fact.
looked it up on Keep Trade Cut. So I'm not just spitballing here. The value adjacent players, according to Keep Trade Cut, is Brashard Smith, Jalen Royals, Shador Sanders, Tank Bigsby, a 2027 late third, and Jake Browning. Those are the value adjacents to Dylan Gabriel.
So yeah, I would pay that for sure.
I think I would rather have Brashard Smith, but pretty much all the rest of those I would buy at that price. So I'm going to say fact that he is a buy. And I am going to shout out our guy, John Fosbury. John is our quarterback guru. He helped contribute to the rookie guide, wrote all of our rookie guide quarterback profiles, and he is the only one I know of anywhere in the industry. I'm not omnipotent. They're omniscient. I don't know what everybody said, but I don't personally know anybody else that had him ahead of Shedeur Sanders pre-NFL draft. But Foz did. He had Dillon Gabriel as his QB3 behind Ward and Dart. And so he wasn't surprised that he got, the draft capital that he did, that, and he lands in a situation here where, post draft, we were like, hey, he's got a real shot to be the starter there. And sure enough, here by week 5, it looks like that might be the case. So got to give Fosbury his flowers on that. But yeah, I think if you can buy for a third now with the potential to maybe flip for a second later, or even just like use him if you're desperate for a quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to say buy him to use him because I don't think he's going to put up a ton of fantasy points. If you're a contender, you don't want to have to be starting a guy like Dillon Gabriel. So I think it's more of a buy and hope that he has some flashes so that you can then immediately sell for a profit. But yeah. All right. So we all are saying fact at the prices that he can still be a buy. And now we're going to take a quick break before we get into our last section here. So want to let you guys know about the great resources available to you at couchscouts.com. We have a rookie guide, which we've mentioned on this show. If you wanted to get Dillon Gabriel for basically free off of waivers after your draft or with your 4th round pick and not have to be buying him right now, you could have had that intel in the rookie guide. We were, I think, above consensus on Woody Marks. I have quite a few Woody Marks shares laying around. We're not right about everything, but, Scattaboo was another one that we were really, really in on. And those shares are looking nice for us. So, I think our rookie guide helps people do pretty well in their rookie drafts, and we've got a history of doing that a couple years running now. So we've got a rookie guide, we've got bonus podcasts, we've got one-on-one consultations with us, we've got an all 22 film room. We're going to be adding dynasty rankings to the site soon. We got all kinds of great resources. You can get them for less than $5 a month if you check out couchscouts.com. And I would encourage you to do that and join the family today. We appreciate all of you guys that support what we're doing. So with all that being said, let's get into our final section of the show, which we're calling the Reactometer. So we're reacting to these takes, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being 100% true, is Puka the dynasty wide receiver 1? He is currently on pace for 178 receptions and 2,138 receiving yards, which is 29 more receptions than Michael Thomas's record and 174 more yards than Calvin Johnson's yardage record. He's putting up ridiculous numbers right now, and he's doing it week in and week out. He's just 24 years old. Is Puka the dynasty wide receiver 1? Scale of 1 to 10. I'll start with you, Rupert.
Man, I think I'd probably go with an 8 here. I mean, we still know how good Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Neighbors, like all these guys are, but the numbers are the numbers. Like he just keeps on producing at an insane volume. Granted, there's the argument that Stafford is pretty elite at producing these ridiculous wide receiver numbers. So what happens when he's not there? But man, what's the argument against him at this point? Like, what's even more impressive than his like pass catching numbers is just how awesome he looks, like blocking, just doing all the dirty work, basically being a tight end out there, blocking in a line, crashing down on linebackers, like just getting in there. He's just so consistent, always gets open, has an incredible feel for yak, basically never drops the ball, so reliable. So I think the argument's definitely there.
Yeah, for sure. Jackson, where are you at with this?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go the flip side of this, honestly. Like it's as crazy as it sounds, like I might give that like a 4, to be honest, 4 or 5. And the reason that I would give it that is because I want to give him credit where credit is due. Like Rupert said, the numbers are the numbers, and he has been phenomenal for that offense. And Matt Stafford and him have a connection that's undeniable, right? I still think that Jamar Chase is the wide receiver one, right? Like the week that Joe Burrow got hurt was against Jacksonville, right? And he had 16 targets, 14 receptions for 165 yards and a touchdown, right? And then Joe Burrow goes out with the ACL. He's got Jake Browning throwing him the football, and that offense does not look anywhere close to what it can look, right? I think that if Joe Burrow is still playing, if they're still in that offense, I think the argument is made that like, yeah, Jamar Chase is the wide receiver one, and he potentially has the same stats that Puka Nacua has, right? I think that Nacua is wide receiver two, yeah, like for sure, but I still have Chase above him in my dynasty rankings.
Yeah, this is for me, I put a 7, but I agree with you. I still have Chase at wide receiver 1 in my rankings. So maybe my number should be lower than a 7. But like Chase has more matchup winning explosive weeks. And he's tied to a better quarterback long term. Those things are probably why I have Chase ahead right now. But Puka is so consistent week in, week out. He has some blow up weeks too. I mean, just this past week he had like 36 fantasy points. So that's a matchup winning kind of game for you. He's also like almost 2 years younger than Jamar Chase, and looks like the much better short-term asset too this season with obviously Browning is in there at quarterback. So when you're younger, you're producing more in the short term, and you just have this remarkable consistency over the last few seasons. It's a really tough call. I think they're in the same tier for me. Like there's not a clear like, oh man, Jamar Chase is so much better than Puka. So if anything, like I think Puka is closer to wide receiver 1 than he is to wide receiver 3. Because I've got Neighbors at wide receiver 3, and Neighbors is out for the whole year.
I would
And
agree
then
with that.
I've got Amon-Ra at wide receiver 4, and he's a good bit older than those guys. I think he's 27. Is that right? Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
so
What
yeah,
about Jefferson?
Jefferson is also in there, but he's just, I don't know. Like the quarterback situation there is very iffy right now. And the last couple of years, like he's still producing, he's playing well, but he's not producing at the elite level like Chase and Puka have been, and even Amon-Ra. Like Amon-Ra is winning you matchups as well. And Jefferson, like he's putting up these respectable numbers. I don't want to be reactionary. He's still really good. I like Jefferson, and he's not old by any means. He's 26. So I don't know. Like I literally actually I looked at my rankings. I do have Jefferson. I misquoted here. So I do have Jefferson right below Puka, right above Neighbors, right above Amon-Ra St. Brown. So like this is all, you're splitting hairs here with these guys. They're all really good.
Those
But if
top those
I
top like 4 or 5 guys, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
Yeah.
Like they're all
I mean, like I said, I wouldn't give a first on top of Neighbors to get Puka, but I do clearly have Puka ahead of Neighbors, if only because like the age difference isn't that significant, and Puka's potentially winning you a league this year, whereas Neighbors is on your IR all season. So like there's a clear difference to me, but not like a tier break or like I'm gonna send this massive plus like we talked about earlier. So
You know what this
anyway,
reminds me of?
yeah.
The arguments that used to be made, like, is Julio Jones wide receiver 1 or Devontae Adams? Is like the argument Devontae Adams is so consistent week in, week out, and then Julio's one who has like this 300-yard games or 2 touchdown games.
Yeah.
And I always kind of leaned Adams just due to the consistency. Like, it's pretty much exactly what you're going to get week in and week out.
And if you had known that Adams' career was going to last so much longer, that probably would have made a difference too. But there's no way of knowing that ahead of time, really. But Yeah, definitely an interesting conversation. So I gave it a 7. Jackson gave it a 4. Rupert gave it an 8. But he's having a great season. Very impressive. All right, so we got one more here, and then we'll wrap up the show. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being it's all about the matchup, and 1 being it's all about the player, the Ashton Jeanty breakout is thanks to the awful Bears defensive line. His 138 yards against the Bears nearly doubled his rushing yardage on the season. And even though he just had 2 receptions, which happened to both be for touchdowns, he ran 18 routes on 23 total passing attempts. That stat is per the Underdog Fantasy Podcast. So, 1 being it's all about Jeanty, 10 being it's all about the matchup with the Bears defensive line. What number are you putting on this? I'll start with you, Jackson.
Yeah, this is honestly a hard one for me, just because I think that Jeanty is such a good player, right? But for me, I think the matchup had a large part to do with it, right? So I think I would give it like a 7 or 8 when it comes to it being about the matchup. Um, because one, that Bears offensive line, or not Bears, the Raiders offensive line just doesn't block for him. Like the amount of times that he's getting hit in the backfield is just insane right now. And like, yeah, Jeanty had a good game, and Jeanty was like finally like, okay, we're talking about like this is the player that we scouted all off season, right? But is it really? I mean, he had one large run, right? That he broke it to the house, but then it was a lot of kind of the same old from what I saw. So I think the matchup played a larger part to do with it than a lot of people care to admit. I would love to say that Genty's back, but I'm still taking a cautious pause to that question.
Rupert, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with a 1 here, and it's mainly due like he broke out because he went back to his Michael Myers stance there in the backfield. Had nothing to do with the matchup.
Straight up and down, baby.
They had no idea what was coming. Yeah, I mean, his breakout was because of his talent. Like he's the one still breaking tackles. Like defenders had him, and he just broke the tackles. It's so special, like how whenever they like the defensive backs catch up to him, like on his long run, they like get their arms around him, and he still has the power to like high step through it and shake them off, and then keep running for the touchdown. We saw that on his college tape over and over again. That just showed up again. So to me, it's all because of his talent that he broke out.
Yeah, this is a 1 for me as well. You mentioned that most of his yardage came on one long run. Well, guess what? That one long run wasn't because the matchup and because the offensive line opened him up this huge hole and the Bears defense was just trash. It's because he broke like 5 tackles on that play. I mean, like Jeanty made that run from nothing. And, so I'm not sure it's a breakout in the sense of like being able to expect this to be the norm going forward, but that's not the question. No, he's not always going to break a 60-plus yard touchdown run. And yes, that offensive line is still trash. If you take out that one 64-yard run, he had 74 yards on his other 20 carries, which is 3.7 yards per carry, which is not great. So to your point, Jackson, I don't disagree that this might not happen every week and that this is still, you're going to still have to be patient with him and it's going to be hit or miss and the offensive line's still trash. I agree with all that. But I think the reason that he broke out in this game had everything to do with Jeanty being a stud. And that was much more significant than anything to do with the Bears defense. So when he has these games throughout the season, it'll be because he's just that good to overcome all those other mitigating factors with the offensive line and all that other stuff. He's just that good. So I'm going to give it a 1. I'm going to say Jeanty is a stud, just like we thought he was, and that's why this breakout happened this week. So that's where we're at. Jackson is at a 7 or 8. Rupert and I are at a 1.
Rupert, we gotta stop letting Cooper break the ties on these things.
We need to make him go first.
We need to gang up on him one of these times.
We'll plan that for next week.
Was there had to have been something that I was on an island about this show, wasn't there? No? Maybe not. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Hope you guys enjoyed listening. We appreciate you guys being tuned in. Definitely, if you haven't already, make sure that you join our free community Discord. The link is in the show notes. It's a great community, 250 plus Dynasty sickos that we just love talking ball. The chat's always hopping, and really it's totally free, no strings attached. We just want to get to know the people that listen to our show. So definitely click that link, join the Discord, and leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. We appreciate you guys listening. Have a blessed week.